and welcome to Your Coaching Journey, a podcast for doctors about coaching. Whether you're a coaching doctor, a doctor who is learning to coach, or a doctor who'd like to build coaching into your professional life, then this is the podcast for you. Hello, I'm Tom Dillon, and with me today is my co-host and business partner, Helen Leathers. Good morning, Helen. How are you?
Good morning, Tom. I'm very well.
Rattle that off, don't I?
You do. You don't trip over my name anymore.
It's like I'm not conscious of saying it. It's just, I just press go and it comes out.
Good.
How are you this morning, Helen?
I am very well, thank you.
Good.
How are you?
Feeling a bit tired this morning.
Are
But
you?
all good, all good.
Okay.
I'm going to get a burst of energy. I've got some coffee.
Excellent.
All good.
What are we talking about today, Tom?
Today we are talking about polyvagal theory.
Okay, interesting. It's something I'm fairly familiar with.
All good.
I have some thoughts
You can tell
on.
me about it. I know nothing about it.
But tell our listeners what we're talking about with the phrase polyvagal theory.
So polyvagal theory, it's a psychological theory. It's been around, just over 30 years. So 1994, it was kind of introduced to the world. Very popular with therapists and coaches, particularly in that kind of working in a trauma-informed way. So it seeks to explain the neurophysiology of our psychological states using neuroscience and evolutionary biology to back up the principles of the theory.
Okay, and where does this theory come from?
It was introduced into the world by Stephen Porges, who is an American psychologist, professor of psychiatry in North Carolina. And he identified a biological order of human responses that he saw as active in all human experience.
Okay, so an observational theory.
Yes.
What is that theory?
So he suggests that the way we come into the world, we're wired to connect. So with our first breath, we embark on a lifelong quest to feel safe in our bodies, in our environments, in our relationships with others. So within polyvagal theory, the autonomic nervous system is our personal surveillance system, always on guard, asking the question, is this safe? Now, we talk about the SCARF model and the idea within that we're scanning our environment, but we're scanning for reward and threat.
Yes.
So not
because we're looking for food. And if we talk about evolutionary aspects, we're looking for food as well as for...
And social interaction and things that bring us joy. So it's not just about... So that's kind of... okay. So that whole idea is that its goal is to protect us by sensing safety and risk. So listening moment to moment to what's happening in and around our bodies and in the connections we have with other people. So this is happening below our level of consciousness. We're not in control of that. And he coined the phrase neuroception to describe how we do that scanning.
Okay, so this is very similar to fight or flight.
Yeah.
Our bodies, our minds are looking for anything that's going to put us in danger so that it can react.
Yes.
Okay.
So in terms of the biological theories that he's using, so he's talking about the autonomic nervous system, and that's made up of two branches, so the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. And that responds to signals, sensations via three pathways. So this is his theory. And there's a characteristic pattern of that response. And with each of those pathways, we are reacting in service of survival.
Okay.
So the sympathetic branch represents the pathway that prepares us for action. So that's the fight or flight, responds to cues of danger and triggers adrenaline, sets off that whole system in response to a threat. In the parasympathetic branch, polyvagal theory focuses on two pathways traveling within a nerve called the vagus nerve. So from the brainstem at the base of the skull, the vagus travels in two directions, downward through the lungs, heart, diaphragm, and stomach, and upwards to connect with nerves in the neck, throat, eyes, and ears. All good. Are we happy with the biology so far?
The theory of the biology.
Yes, the theory of biology, yes.
Okay.
So the vagus is divided into two, the vagus nerve is divided into two parts, the ventral vagal pathway and the dorsal vagal pathway. So in polyvagal theory, the ventral vagal pathway responds to cues of safety and supports feelings of being safely engaged and socially connected. And in contrast, the dorsal vagal pathway responds to cues of extreme danger. It takes us out of connection, out of awareness, and into a protective state of collapse. So this isn't fight or flight protection. This is
fawn freeze.
Well, kind of freeze,
Collapse.
really. Yeah, just collapsing of our nervous system. So again, maybe we need to call it PVT. Polyvagal theory is a bit of a long term.
Yeah.
Let's say PVT for now. So PVT posits that when we feel collapse, numb, or not there, the dorsal vagal system has taken control.
Right.
How are we feeling about it now? Good. You good? Still with us?
Still getting it? Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So Porges proposes that our autonomic nervous system contains a hierarchy of survival responses that are shaped by our evolution. At the oldest level is the dorsal vagal pathway of the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's associated with immobilization and shutdown. So that's the oldest bit, according to him. And he links this response to our ancient vertebrate ancestry, suggesting it represents one of the earliest ways organisms survived overwhelming threat.
Collapse in a heap.
Collapse in a heap.
Right, okay.
So then the sympathetic nervous system developed later and is linked with mobilization. So this is the system that prepares us to take action, so fight or flight, to move, to protect ourselves or respond to danger.
So that's more recent because perhaps we were upright and able to run.
According to this.
According to this, yes.
And then the most recent development, according to Porges, is the ventral vagal pathway or the parasympathetic nervous system, which supports social engagement, connection, and a sense of safety. So that's much more recent mammalian wiring.
Right.
According to him. So when we're in a ventral vagal state, we're more likely to be calm, connected, open, able to relate to other people. If we send stager, then we're going to the sympathetic activation and become ready for action. And when we've taken action, then we'd return to that homeostasis, that safety. And whenever danger feels inescapable, the nervous system may shift into the dorsal vagal shutdown.
So we become immobilized, not because we're weak, but it's a survival response. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So the idea is that returning from that state to safety and connection can be really slow and difficult.
Okay.
All good?
Yeah, it's very different from the opposing concept of sympathetic nervous system reacts, parasympathetic nervous system calms it down.
Yeah.
It's quite different from the current.
And I think those two are very recognizable, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like we can all relate to that. Yeah. Okay, so Porges has used a metaphor of the autonomic nervous system as a ladder, and we move up and down in order to regulate our nervous system. So in PVT, the ventral vagal state sits at the top of the autonomic ladder, and in this state we feel connected to ourselves, to our experiences, to other people. Everything is manageable. We organize ourselves, follow through with plans, care for ourselves. Play, work, productivity.
Living our best life.
All that lovely stuff. So that's obviously associated with well-being, seen to be including steadier heart function, regulated blood pressure, stronger immunity, healthy digestion, all the good stuff.
All the good stuff, yeah. Okay.
So then as we move down the ladder, we get to the sympathetic nervous system, and that activates when we sense danger. So we move into mobilization, fight or flight. So our heart rate increases, breathing becomes shallow, scan for threat, although we were scanning for threat before that. So
I thought we were always scanning for threat.
Yeah, we were always scanning.
Okay.
So we may feel anxious, angry, unable to settle. So the world can then seem dangerous and unfriendly. So obviously in the coaching room, we've talked about this before, that we want people in that open state, don't we? The first top of the ladder, that parasympathetic ventral vagal state as it's described here, because we want people to be open to new ideas and to be able to think expansively. And if they go down into the fight or flight state, they're not thinking as clearly.
Yeah.
That sort of amygdala hijack thing happens and the prefrontal cortex gets suppressed and we're not thinking as well, are we? So we don't want that in the coaching room. So obviously for people in the outside world, they're going to experience anxiety, panic, anger, maybe a lack of concentration, restlessness, difficulty in relationships, things like that, and might develop sleep problems, digestive issues, that sort of thing. Now, at the bottom of the ladder, we have this dorsal vagal state, which is he sees as the oldest of our survival responses. And when danger's inescapable, we might shut down, collapse, dissociate, feel hopeless, foggy, exhausted, unable to act. And so then daily life obviously becomes very difficult. And
if we stay there.
If we stay there, we'll have long-term health consequences, won't we? All sorts of things will happen if we're not moving about. So having got those 3 stages on the ladder, so we've got the ventral vagal at the top, then the sympathetic, and then the dorsal vagal at the bottom. His suggestion is that we have to move through them systematically. So if we go to the dorsal vagal state, we can't go to the ventral vagal state without going through the sympathetic state.
Right.
So there's a hierarchy that we have to follow.
Right.
So obviously our preferred place is the ventral vagal state at the top. This is where we feel connected, resourceful. Doesn't mean life's easy all the time, but means we're able to acknowledge distress, consider options, seek support, that sort of thing. So then when we sense danger, we move down into the sympathetic activation, preparing us for action. And then when we've taken the action, then we kind of, that settles, we go back up into the ventral vagal state. But then when we drop down to the lowest rung of the ladder, that hope and safety can feel out of reach.
Okay.
So that our well-being depends on us being able to move through those different states.
And in theory, if you compare it to the more traditional fight or flight, sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system theory, we need to be able to move between those states.
Yeah.
It's the same. We need to be able to come back to rest and digest, don't we? We need to be able to come back to homeostasis. We can't stay in that fight or flight response. We need to be able to flow.
Yeah, well, I think in order to live a healthy, well-adjusted life, we do, but there are people that don't come out of that fight or flight. So if you think about...
well, that's the whole point of this, isn't it? That we need the ability to move up and down the ladder.
Yeah, but if we think about the Ukraine, the parts of Ukraine that are occupied, I don't think people are coming out of that fight or flight state. They're constantly on high alert, aren't they? Yeah. Well,
people who've been at war, suffer PTSD are in that state constantly as well.
But yes, so normally we want to be able to move through them. But his idea is that you can't go from the bottom to the top. You have to go through the middle. So there's some activation of the sympathetic state in order to get to the ventral vagal state.
Right.
So there's that strict hierarchy. So, and one of the key scientific claims of PVT, it connects the respiratory sinus arrhythmia, or RSA, with the vagal state, and that's social emotional functioning.
Then that means?
RSA refers to the natural way your heart rate changes as you breathe. So when you breathe in, your heart rate tends to speed up slightly. When you breathe out, your heart rate tends to slow down slightly.
Okay.
That's the normal, healthy rhythm of breathing, and reflects the close relationship between breathing, the heart rate, and the autonomic nervous system, especially the parasympathetic, influence through the vagus nerve. So in simple terms, RSA is one part of heart rate variability. So polyvagal PVT sees RSA as a measurable marker of the ventral vagal regulation and the vagal brake, which is that lowest part of the ladder we talked about, is when the vagal brake is applied. So that all sounds perfectly plausible, even though there's maybe some new elements of it that don't relate to what we would think of as that two-tier system of fight or flight and rest and digest, that sympathetic and parasympathetic. We kind of get the gist of it and see that it could work, but there's a problem.
Yeah. What's that?
Well, I think the problem is it's been around for 30 years and has gained a lot of traction in the world of therapy and in the world of coaching, but it doesn't really have a basis in evolutionary biology or neurophysiology.
Yeah, there's recently been a paper, hasn't there, that says
now there's been a challenge to it for the last 20 years. So polyvagal theory itself is very self-referencing. So Stephen Porges is the only guy really talking about, the only one with any scientific evidence of this in this world.
Theory.
So there's no neuroscience papers being done by anyone else to support it. So that's a problem. And if it was groundbreaking theory, loads of people would be researching it, wouldn't they? It's also not changed in the last 30 years. So his thinking on it is the same as it was 30 years ago. And obviously there's been big advances in neuroscience, neuroimaging and things like that. So originally, 20 years ago, 2007, Paul Grossman became one of the most persistent critics of this research and published a paper criticising it and said it didn't accurately describe the evolution of vagal control of heart rate variability. So since that time, that divide has widened. So Porges has obviously had a big influence on
huge
the well-being movement, trauma therapy, body-based psychotherapy, all of that stuff. And people have found the ladder really useful as a metaphor for those different states. So engage with that, and people talk about the polyvagal ladder. So it's grown. It's got some real traction. But Grossman continued to argue that the underlying anatomy, physiology, and the evolutionary claims weren't robust enough to support the theory. So that escalated in 2025 when Porges published a review defending his theory and looking at the clinical applications of it and future directions. So presenting it again as an evolutionarily informed framework for understanding the autonomic state, safety, social engagement and resilience. So that was him coming out and going, look, this is real. And so then, beginning of this year, January 2026, Grossman led a whole swathe of researchers. So 38 other researchers came along with him. And I think they were researchers that in Porges' latest paper, he'd cited as them supporting his theory.
I thought so.
So they all came together and went, hang on a minute. So they have written a paper that says why the polyvagal theory is untenable. And they've challenged 5 major areas. So the RSA as a direct index of central vagal drive, the functions of the nucleus, ambiguous and dorsal motor nucleus, the evolutionary claims about the vagus, the claims about mammalian social behavior, and his interpretation of other physiological literature. So their conclusion was blunt, that major tenets of the theory were not supported.
So the biology wasn't there. The anatomy and the physiology wasn't.
I mean, some of it's there.
The physical structures are there, but they're not doing what he's saying they're doing.
No. Which is not unusual in, pseudoscientific stuff.
Yeah.
We've talked before about the reticular activating system, haven't we?
Yeah.
And that doesn't do what people say it does.
Yeah.
So he's now come back.
Oh, has he?
Yes.
I'm sure he would.
And has written a paper saying, when a critique becomes untenable, saying that they have just misrepresented a different version of polyvagal theory, and they're confused about neuroanatomy and neurophysiology.
But they're neuroscientists, aren't they? Yeah.
So, and they've reduced his theory to measurement disputes and failed to engage with it at a systems level, systems level theory. So he's saying you're misunderstanding the theory. These 39 other scientists are saying, no, the theory's core biological claims are wrong. Okay.
So where have you ended up with your thinking on this?
I think it's a useful metaphorical framework. I think that, the idea of that ladder, you could say, well, it helps people to understand perhaps what's going on for them, but I'm not sure it does, really.
See, to me, it makes no sense.
No.
And what I find interesting is you've got the theory that you've just gone through very well, thank you. You've got that theory around the anatomy, the physiology, the biological actions, if you like. And then you've got all of the, which we haven't talked about, all of the ways people help individuals to regulate their nervous system. And they're things like meditation, breathing, yoga, movement. Those things are really valid. And it's such a shame that, if you look at this, you go, oh, the polyvagal theory is untenable. It's one half of it. It's the theory behind it. But actually the elements that can really help individuals to manage stress, manage trauma, have got validity.
Yeah.
And so that side of it is really useful for people. It's just the science behind it is being challenged.
Yeah, and I had this problem when I came from having done a psychology degree to being in the world of coaching, because on my master's course, so I did a coaching master's, and one of the things that got talked about was the idea that the heart had an intelligence of its own.
Yes.
So that was something that was put to me in a lecture as fact. And lots of research had been done, but it had been done by one particular researcher and one particular organisation. And I challenged that as a theory and said, well, where's the evidence? Like, there's loads of it. but it didn't make any sense to me. And it was the same sort of using the vagus nerve that was cited as a thing that, well, the vagus nerve attaches the brain to the heart, so therefore it's true. And so they were, again, talking about anatomy, physiology, but using it in a way that wasn't real. So, I've got a history with that being put forward as let's use some biology, physiology to support our theories, but in a way that's not real. And I think it's sort of, obviously he's become very well known, and supported by an awful lot of therapists and coaches that buy into the theory and continue to use it.
But is that because the methods they're using to, as I say, deal with the stress, the trauma, are effective, regardless of the fact that the science is wrong?
Yeah, but they don't need to use polyvagal theory to justify using what they use that works.
No.
Yeah, we use a lot of embodiment stuff on our course. I don't really need that scientific evidence to support what we do because we know that it works. So I think for therapists working with people that perhaps are seen to be in that lower state, at the bottom of the ladder, where they're working to help them improve their system management, their stress management, their regulation. Great, do the work. Just don't call it polyvagal theory.
Yeah.
Don't say this is supported by this theory. Because it's nonsense.
Not. Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's all nonsense, but you can't separate the bits that are nonsense from the bits that aren't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, he could revise his theory and say, look, some of this stuff I got wrong, but I still think this is valid. And these are the bits that support it. But he's...
It's interesting, isn't it? Because really, the idea of research is you come up with a theory and then you work to prove or disprove it, and then you change your hypothesis and keep looking. But yeah, I really enjoyed that conversation.
Yes, he's doubled down on his theory.
Yeah.
It's right. You are wrong, all of you people. You've just misunderstood me. So I guess the truth is we don't know, do we?
No.
Whether, we've got the evidence of 39 scientists saying this is nonsense, or bits of it are nonsense, and then another guy saying I am right, you are all wrong, even though you are scientists. And so the debate will continue.
The debate will continue. Well, thank you for starting it here.
But don't expect us to talk about polyvagal theory on our courses, because we're not going to.
We won't do that. We'll talk about lots of really useful other stuff.
We will.
But we won't talk about polyvagal theory.
And we talked about other stuff that is a theory, but we always talk about things as theories, and that, we're not attached to them. And if someone wants to prove they're wrong, that's fine.
Yeah.
We like a theory, but recognise they're just theories, and there may be other ways to explain things.
A bit like models.
Yeah.
They're all wrong.
They're all wrong, but some are useful.
Not all theories are wrong. Some have been shown to be true.
Well, but then you get things that years later have
But then science changes.
It does, yeah. You get new information. The Earth isn't flat after all.
Oh, thank you so much for bringing that.
You're very welcome.
Your explanation of polyvagal theory.
Thank you for listening to me drone on about it.
Next time on the podcast, we're going to be talking a little bit about limiting beliefs and how to work with them in the coaching room.
I don't think I'm able to do that.
I'll see if I can persuade you otherwise.
Thank you. See you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye for now.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.